Captain Zoyax Theta of the Corvanian Empire stood before the massive holographic display in the command center of his warship, the Stellar Dominator. His four arms crossed in contemplation as he studied the three-dimensional map of known galactic territories. The map showed every major civilization, every trade route, every conquered world in brilliant colors and flowing lines. But there was one glaring anomaly that had bothered him for cycles. At the edge of the map, in what should have been unexplored space, there was a dark void. Not empty space, but a deliberately blacked-out section. The label simply read, Human Space, no entry. Commander Veltor, YX Theta, called to his second in command. Tell me again why this section remains unmarked. The younger Corvanian shifted nervously, his scales changing from blue to a worried purple. Sir, according to the Galactic Council records, that territory belongs to a species called humans. The map ends there by universal agreement. Universal agreement? ZYX Theta's mandibles clicked in amusement. The Corvanian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. We have never agreed to leave any territory unexplored. The records are strange, sir. They mention something called the Forgetting, but the details are classified beyond even our clearance level. ZYX Theta turned to face his crew. The bridge was filled with the finest warriors and tacticians the Empire had to offer. Each one had participated in dozens of successful conquests. The Corvanians were known throughout the galaxy as unstoppable conquerors, their military might unmatched. Prepare the fleet, he commanded. We will explore this human space and add it to our empire. Whatever these humans are, they cannot stand against Corvanian might. His crew exchanged worried glances, but none dared question their captain's orders. Within hours, a fleet of 50 warships had assembled, each one bristling with weapons and filled with elite soldiers. The Stellar Dominator led the formation as they approached the unmarked boundary. As they crossed into human space, nothing happened at first. The scanners showed normal space, dotted with stars and planets. ZYX Theta's confidence grew. Perhaps these humans were simply another primitive species that had somehow convinced the Galactic Council to leave them alone. Then, the communications officer spoke up. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's in perfect Corvanian. On screen, a human appeared on the view screen. It was smaller than a Corvanian, with only 2 arms and no scales. Its skin was a pale pink color, and it had fur only on the top of its head. To ZYX Theta, it looked fragile and weak. Greetings, Corvanian fleet, the human said, its voice calm and pleasant. I am Admiral Sarachun of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. For your own safety, I must ask you to turn back immediately. ZYX Theta laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. You dare threaten the Corvanian Empire? We have conquered species far greater than you. Surrender now, and we may show mercy. The human's expression didn't change. This is not a threat, Captain. This is a warning. The galactic map ends a human space for a very good reason. You are about to learn why everyone else has chosen to forget. Enough talk. All ships prepare for battle formation. We will take their capital world within the day. Admiral Chun sighed on the screen. Very well. Don't say we didn't warn you. Activating Protocol 7. The transmission cut off. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, ZYX Theta noticed something odd on his tactical display. Where there had been empty space moments before, ships were appearing. Not just a few ships, but hundreds. Then thousands. Sir, the tactical officer's voice shook. I'm reading over 10,000 vessels converging on our position. Impossible. No species has a fleet that large. But the evidence was undeniable. Human ships of every size and configuration were emerging from what seemed like nowhere. Some were massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Stellar Dominator. Others were small, nimble fighters that moved in perfect synchronization. How are they hiding from our sensors? Veltor demanded. The science officer was frantically working at his station. They're not hiding, sir. They're folding space. They're literally everywhere and nowhere at the same time until they choose to appear. Zoiax Theta felt the first stirring of fear. The Corvanian Empire had never encountered technology like this. Their own ships, for all their firepower, suddenly seemed primitive in comparison. "Sir, they're hailing us again." Admiral Chun reappeared on the screen. Behind her, Zoiax Theta could see a command center that made his own bridge look like a child's playroom. Holographic displays showed tactical data in dimensions he couldn't even comprehend. "Captain Zoiax Theta," she said, "you now have a choice. You can turn around and leave, and we will allow you to keep your memories of this encounter as a warning. Or you can continue your attack and face the consequences." "What consequences? What is this forgetting you speak of?" The human's expression grew sad. "The forgetting is our mercy, Captain. You see, humans have a saying, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. But sometimes the past is so terrible that forgetting is the only way to move forward." She gestured, and the view screen split to show historical records. Zoiax Theta watched in growing horror as he saw fleet after fleet entering human space. Proud species, powerful empires, unstoppable armadas. And each one had been defeated. Not just defeated, but erased so thoroughly that their own people forgot they had ever existed. "We don't want to be conquerors," Admiral Chen continued. "We explored the galaxy in peace, seeking friends and knowledge. But species kept attacking us. So we developed the ultimate defense. Not weapons that destroy, but technology that makes the galaxy forget. Your empire will continue to exist, but they will forget this fleet ever existed. They will forget you ever existed. And they will never try to enter human space again." Zoiax Theta's mind raced. "That's impossible. You can't just make an entire galaxy forget." "Can't we?" Chen asked. "Tell me, Captain, do you remember the Yelnari Empire?" The name meant nothing to him, but his historical database suddenly pinged. There were references to the Yelnari scattered throughout Corvanian records, but they were fragmentary, incomplete, as if someone had tried to erase them but missed a few pieces. "They had a fleet of 73 ships," Chen said. "They entered human space 8 cycles ago. We gave them the same warning we're giving you. They didn't listen." The tactical display updated. Zoiax Theta could see energy readings from the human ships that defied everything he knew about physics. Whatever weapons they had, they weren't based on any technology the Corvanians understood. "But why?" he asked. "If you have such power, why not conquer the galaxy?" Admiral Chun smiled sadly. "Because we learned long ago that conquest brings nothing but pain. We've been to the stars, Captain. We've seen wonders you can't imagine. But we've also seen what happens when power corrupts. So we chose a different path. We defend our borders, we help those who ask, and we leave the rest of the galaxy alone. All we ask is that others do the same." The human fleet had finished surrounding the Corvanian ships. Energy fields that looked like aurora borealis danced between the vessels, creating a cage of light that was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "Last chance, Captain," Admiral Chen said. "Turn back now, and you can warn others. Stay, and become another forgotten footnote in history." Zoiax Theta looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also trust. They would follow whatever order he gave. The weight of command had never felt heavier. His pride screamed at him to fight. The Corvanian Empire had never retreated from battle, but his wisdom, hard-earned through cycles of warfare, told him something else. Sometimes, the bravest thing a warrior could do was recognize when he was outmatched. "If we leave," he asked slowly, "what guarantee do we have that you won't follow?" "You have our word," Chen replied. "And the fact that we could have destroyed you the moment you crossed our border, but chose to warn you instead. We don't want war, Captain. We just want to be left alone." The bridge was silent, except for the hum of instruments. Zoiax Theta's 4 hands clenched and unclenched as he wrestled with the decision. Everything he had been taught, everything he believed about Corvanian superiority was being challenged. But he thought about those fragmentary records of the Yelnari. An entire fleet, an entire crew, forgotten by their own people. Their families would never know what happened to them. Their names would be erased from history. And if we tell others about this, he asked, if we warn them, please do, Admiral Chen said. In fact, we hope you will. The fewer fleets we have to make forget, the happier we are. ZYX Theta made his decision. All ships, reverse course. We are leaving human space. There were gasps from some of the crew, but Veltor immediately began relaying orders. Slowly, the Corvanian fleet turned around. The human ships maintained their positions, watching but not pursuing. As they crossed back over the border, ZYX Theta took one last look at the tactical display. The thousands of human ships were vanishing as quickly as they had appeared, folding back into whatever dimension they occupied when not needed. Captain, Veltor said quietly, what will we tell the Empire? ZYX Theta was quiet for a long moment. The truth, that the galaxy map ends at human space for a reason, and that some borders are better left uncrossed. As the Stellar Dominator entered hyperspace, heading back to Corvanian territory, ZYX Theta couldn't shake the feeling that he had just had the narrowest escape of his life. He thought about all the species who hadn't been as wise, who had pressed forward despite the warnings. The Forgotten, Admiral Chen had called them. Entire civilizations reduced to fragmentary records and half-remembered myths. Not destroyed, but something worse. Erased from memory itself. He pulled up his personal log and began to dictate his report. The Corvanian Empire needed to know. The entire galaxy needed to know. The humans weren't conquerors or destroyers. They were something far more dangerous. They were the guardians at the edge of the map. And they had the power to make the universe forget. 3 months had passed since Captain ZYX Theta's encounter with the humans. His report had sent shockwaves through the Corvanian Empire and beyond. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session, something that hadn't happened in over a century. The Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime was filled with representatives from every major civilization. The crystalline Volati floated in their environmental suits. The mechanical synth collective stood in perfect formation, and the ancient elderly sat in their hover chairs, their eyes glowing with accumulated wisdom. At the center of it all, ZYX Theta stood at the witness podium, recounting his experience for the 100th time. But this time was different. This time, the entire galaxy was listening. The human technology is beyond anything we've encountered, he said, his voice carrying through the vast chamber. They can fold space, hide entire fleets in dimensions we cannot perceive, and, worst of all, they can make us forget. High Counselor Thrain of the Eldery leaned forward. The Eldery were the oldest spacefaring race, their archives stretching back millennia. Captain, in all our recorded history, we have never encountered such abilities. Are you certain of what you saw? Before ZYX Theta could answer, another voice spoke up. It came from a section of the chamber that had been empty moments before. Every being in the assembly turned in shock as a human woman materialized in the guest speaker circle. He is certain because it is true, the woman said. She was different from Admiral Chun, older, with silver streaking through her dark hair. She wore simple civilian clothes rather than a military uniform. I am Dr. Elizabeth Harper, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Council. We thought it was time we addressed the galaxy directly. The assembly erupted in chaos. Security forces moved to surround the human, but she held up a hand. Please, I come in peace. In fact, I was invited. She produced a holographic seal that made the High Counselor's eyes widen. It was an invitation protocol that hadn't been used in 500 years, from a time before the current Galactic Council had even formed. Ow! Thrain whispered. The same way we do everything else, Dr. Harper said with a gentle smile. We remember, even when the rest of the galaxy chooses to forget. She gestured, and the central holographic display came to life, showing a star map that extended far beyond the known galaxy. You see a map that ends at human space. We see a map that continues for thousands of light years beyond. You see us as mysterious isolationists. We see ourselves as gardeners, tending to something precious. The Synth Collective representative, Unit Prime, processed this information with mechanical precision. Clarification requested. Will you gardening? Peace, Dr. Harper replied simply. the most fragile flower in the universe. She touched the display, and it zoomed in on human space. But instead of the empty void the galactic maps showed, it revealed thousands of inhabited systems, vast structures that defied imagination, and ships moving in patterns that seemed to dance between dimensions. We learned something long ago, she continued. Something that changed us forever. Would you like to know what it was? The assembly was silent now, every being hanging on her words. We learned that we were not the first. Not by a long shot. The display changed, showing archaeological sites on a dozen human worlds. We found ruins, you see, civilizations that had reached heights we could barely imagine, then fell, and they all fell for the same reason. She paused, looking around the room. They forgot how to say enough. The display showed reconstruction of these ancient civilizations, mighty empires that had spanned galaxies, technologies that could reshape reality itself, and then inevitable collapse. War, devastation, extinction. We studied these ruins for centuries, Dr. Harper said. We learned their languages, their histories, their technologies, and we realized we were walking the same path. Expansion, conquest, the eternal hunger for more. So we made a choice. What choice? Asked the Volati representative, its crystalline form pulsing with curiosity. We chose to remember everything. Every war, every atrocity, every mistake. Not just our own, but those of every civilization that came before. The weight of all that history, all that pain, it changed us. How could we conquer others when we remembered what conquest truly cost? How could we forget our enemies when we remembered that today's enemy could be tomorrow's friend? She gestured again, and the display showed human history. Not the sanitized version taught in schools, but the raw truth. Wars, genocides, environmental destruction, but also redemption, cooperation, and growth. We developed the forgetting not as a weapon, but as mercy, she explained, because we realized that some civilizations could not bear the weight of their actions. The Yelnari Empire that Captain Zwax Theta discovered fragments of, they had just finished exterminating 3 sentient species when they came to our borders. The memory of that genocide was destroying them from within, so we gave them peace. We made the galaxy forget their crimes, and in doing so, allowed them to start fresh. The assembly stirred uneasily. Many of them had committed acts they would rather forget. High Counselor Thrain spoke carefully. You speak of mercy, yet you hide behind your borders. If you have such wisdom, why not share it? Dr. Harper's expression grew sad. Because wisdom cannot be given, only earned. We tried in the early days. We shared our technology, our philosophy, our knowledge freely. Do you know what happened? The display showed historical footage that no one in the assembly had seen before. Human ships arriving at alien worlds, bearing gifts of technology and knowledge. The initial joy and celebration. Then, the inevitable corruption. Technologies meant for healing used for war. Philosophies of peace twisted into justifications for conquest. Every time we tried to help directly, we made things worse, Dr. Harper said. So we learned to help indirectly. How many of you have benefited from mysterious technological breakthroughs? How many plagues have been cured by anonymous genetic sequences appearing in your databases? How many wars have been prevented by critical intelligence arriving at just the right moment? Murmurs ran through the assembly. Every civilization had stories of such mysterious interventions. We watch, Dr. Harper continued. We remember. And when we can help without revealing ourselves, we do. But we cannot give you tools you're not ready for. Because we remember what happens when power outpaces wisdom. The Corvanian delegation stirred. One of them, an elder named Crex Tor, stood. You speak of watching and remembering. What gives you the right to judge us? Nothing gives us that right, Dr. Harper replied, which is why we don't judge. We simply protect ourselves. The border of human space isn't a wall to keep you out. It's a membrane to give you choice. You can trade with us, communicate with us, even visit us if you come in peace. But the moment you come with conquest in your hearts, you trigger our defenses. She looked directly at Captain HFY Theta. Your captain showed wisdom. He chose to remember. That memory now protects his people. How many others have not been so wise? The doctor touched the display one more time. Numbers appeared. Not just numbers, but names. Fleets that had entered human space with hostile intent over the centuries. The count was staggering. 8,437, she read. That's how many fleets we've had to make the galaxy forget. Each one given the same warning. Each one choosing to ignore it. Their crews aren't dead. They live on in human space. Their memories altered, their aggression removed. They tend gardens, create art, explore sciences. They live lives of peace and fulfillment. But their civilizations have forgotten them. And what of Earth itself? Asked the elderly counselor. Your homeworld remains hidden from all maps. Dr. Harper smiled, and for the first time, there was real warmth in it. Earth is everywhere and nowhere. We learned long ago that tying ourselves to a single world made us vulnerable. So Earth exists in the hearts and memories of every human, wherever they are. It's not a place anymore. It's an idea. The idea that beings can choose to be better than their base instincts. The assembly was quiet for a long moment. Then, from the back, a young Volati spoke up. What would happen if we asked for your help? Not your technology, not your power, but your wisdom. Then, we would talk, Dr. Harper said. We would share stories. We would remember together. And maybe, just maybe, we would find a way forward that doesn't end in extinction. She began to fade, her form becoming translucent. The invitation stands. Any who come to human space in peace will find peace. Any who come seeking wisdom will find teachers. But any who come with conquest in their hearts will find only forgetting. As she vanished completely, her final words echoed through the chamber. The map ends a human space not because we're the edge of civilization, but because we are the reminder of what lies beyond the need for maps. When you are ready to explore without conquering, to remember without repeating, you will find us waiting. The assembly sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly discussions began. Not the usual debates about territory and resources, but something different. Philosophers questioned warriors. Scientists challenged politicians. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was truly thinking about the future. Captain HFY Theta found himself surrounded by other military officers, all wanting to know more about his encounter. But one question kept coming up from species after species. What did it feel like, a synth commander asked, to choose retreat over victory? HFY Theta thought for a moment. It felt like wisdom. The humans could have destroyed us without warning. Instead, they gave us a choice. They remembered that we might one day be friends instead of enemies. Can any of us say we would have done the same? The question hung in the air, unanswered but understood. Meanwhile, on the borders of human space, something unprecedented was happening. Ships were approaching, but not warships. Science vessels, diplomatic couriers, cargo haulers. Each one broadcasting the same message. We come in peace, seeking understanding. And for each one, the borders opened. The dark void on the map remained, but now it was understood not as an ending, but as an invitation. The humans have been waiting patiently for the galaxy to be ready. Some civilizations would still come with weapons, driven by greed or fear or simple stupidity. They would be warned, and if they persisted, they would be forgotten. But others would come with open hands and curious minds. In a command center that existed in folded space, Admiral Sarah Chun watched the approaching vessels with satisfaction. It's starting, she said to her staff. Slowly, but it's starting. Do you think they're ready? Her second-in-command asked. Chun shrugged. Some are. Some aren't. But that's okay. We have time. We can remember for all of them until they're ready to remember for themselves. She looked at the true map, the one that showed not just human space, but the vast expanses beyond. The ruins of the ancients, the nascent civilizations just discovering fire, the wonders and horrors of a universe vast beyond imagination. The map ends a human space, she murmured. But the journey? The journey is just beginning. 5 years had passed since Dr. Harper's appearance at the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and profound. The mysterious border of human space had become a pilgrimage site for scientists, philosophers, and seekers of wisdom. But not everyone had learned the lesson. In the deepest reaches of the void sector, where even light seemed reluctant to travel, a gathering was taking place. Representatives from civilizations that had refused to accept the new reality met in secret. They called themselves the Forgotten Rememberers, though they had no idea how ironically appropriate that name would prove to be. Lord Executor Vashtan of the Hegemony stood at the center of the gathering, his cybernetic implants glowing with barely contained rage. 5 years we have waited. 5 years we have watched lesser species grovel before the humans. No more. I have found the answer. He activated a holographic display showing ancient ruins on a dead world. The architecture was unlike anything in known space, twisted and impossible, as if reality itself had been tortured into new shapes. The Null Sanctum, he announced, predating even the ruins the humans found. And within it, weapons that can pierce any defense, break any shield, forget any memory. Murmurs of excitement ran through the gathered conspirators. The Crimson Swarm clicked their mandibles in anticipation. The Void Reapers pulsed with dark energy. Even the usually cautious Shade Coalition leaned forward with interest. My archaeologists have decoded the primary weapon, Vashtan continued. It's called the Unmaker. It doesn't just destroy. It removes things from having ever existed. Not even the human's memory technology can defend against something that never was. Far away, in the folded space of human territory, alarms began to sound. Admiral Chun looked up from her tea as reality itself rippled around her command center. Admiral, her sensor officer reported, voice tight with concern. We're detecting massive distortions in the void sector. Someone's activating pre-builder technology. Chen's expression hardened. The builders were what humans called the truly ancient civilizations, the ones whose ruins serve as warnings. Their technology was quarantined for good reason. How bad, she asked. Category 9. They're trying to wake and unmake her. For the first time in years, Chun felt genuine fear. The Unmakers were weapons of absolute negation. The humans had found 3 in their explorations. One had been activated accidentally, and an entire solar system had simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not forgotten, but retroactively never created. Alert the Council of Remembrance, she ordered, and prepare Protocol Omega if they succeed in activating that weapon. She didn't need to finish. Every human knew what Protocol Omega meant. The last resort, the final forgetting. Back in the Void Sector, Vashtan's team worked feverishly to activate the ancient weapon. The Null Sanctum resisted them, its defenses killing dozens of researchers, but greed and hatred drove them forward. Finally, after days of effort, they breached the central chamber. The Unmaker hung in the center of the room, a sphere of absolute darkness that hurt to perceive. It wasn't black so much as an absence, a hole in existence itself. Strange symbols crawled across its surface, writing themselves into reality only to vanish moments later. Beautiful, Vashtan whispered. With this, we will erase human space itself. They will not just be forgotten. They will never have existed at all. His chief scientist, a 6-limbed creature from the Crimson Swarm, chittered nervously. Lord Executor, the power readings are unstable. The containment systems are beyond our understanding. Perhaps we should activate it, Vashtan commanded. Target human space. Let them know the price of making others forget. The scientist reluctantly began the activation sequence. Ancient machinery groaned to life. Reality twisted. And, in the heart of the Unmaker, something that had slept for eons began to wake. The first sign something was wrong came when the symbols on the Unmaker's surface stopped their random crawling and arranged themselves into a pattern that every species recognized instinctively, encoded in the deepest parts of their genetic memory. Danger. Stop. Turn back. Ignore it, Vashtan ordered. Continue the activation. The warnings grew more urgent, appearing not just on the Unmaker, but on every surface in the sanctum. The air itself seemed to scream caution, but the conspirators pressed on, driven by their hatred and fear of humanity. Then the Unmaker spoke. It wasn't sound. It wasn't telepathy. It was something far more fundamental, as if the laws of physics themselves were being used as a communication medium. Every atom in their bodies vibrated with the message. I am the mistake that unmakes mistakes. I am the cure that kills the patient. I am why the builders built no more. You who would wake me, know this. I cannot be aimed. I cannot be controlled. I can only unmake, starting with those foolish enough to wake me. Vashtan felt the first touch of true terror. Abort. Shut it down. But it was too late. The Unmaker had tasted existence again, and it was hungry. The sphere of darkness began to expand. Everything it touched didn't just disappear. It had never been. The scientist who had activated it was the first to go. One moment he existed, the next he had never been born. His contributions to science, his family, his entire lineage vanished from history. The universe rewrote itself to accommodate his absence. Run, someone screamed, but there was nowhere to run from something that attacked existence itself. In human space, Admiral Chun watched the readings with growing horror. It's fully active. Estimated time until it reaches inhabited systems. At current expansion rate, 6 hours until it hits the first hegemony world. 12 hours until it reaches the galactic core. After that, the officer didn't need to continue. After that, there would be no galaxy left. Options. Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. Protocol Omega is our only chance. But, Admiral, if we use it... I know. Protocol Omega was the ultimate expression of human memory technology. Not just making others forget, but making humanity itself forget. Removing their entire species from existence to save everyone else. It was the final safeguard, the last gift they could give to a universe that had never quite trusted them. Dr. Harper appeared on the communication screen, her face grave. Admiral, the Council of Remembrance has voted. If the Unmaker cannot be stopped, we implement Protocol Omega. Better that humanity never was than the entire galaxy never was. Chen nodded slowly. Understood. How long do we have to find another solution? 5 hours. After that, we won't have enough time to complete the protocol before the Unmaker reaches critical mass. Throughout human space, the population received the news with a calm that came from truly understanding consequences. Parents hugged children who would never have existed. Artists put final touches on works that would never have been created. Scientists downloaded their knowledge into quantum storage that might, just might, survive the transition. But not everyone was ready to accept extinction, even a gentle one. Lieutenant Commander Jonas Reeves, a young officer in the Deep Memory Division, had been studying the Unmaker incident from a different angle. Admiral, request permission to try something insane. How insane? Chen asked. Remember how we make others forget? We remove memories, but leave the underlying reality intact. What if we could do the opposite? Leave the memories, but remove the reality? Chun frowned. That's not possible. Memory without substance is just weight. Her eyes widened. You want to turn the entire galaxy into a memory. Not the galaxy, just the Unmaker. Make it remember being contained. Make it forget it was ever released. It was beyond audacious. It was probably impossible. But it was better than erasing humanity from existence. Do it, Chen ordered. You have 3 hours. What followed was the most complex application of human memory technology ever attempted. Every human ship, every human mind, every quantum processor in human space joined together in a vast network. Together, they reached out to the expanding sphere of unmaking and began to tell a story. They told it about the builders who had created it in their folly. They told it about the horror they felt when they realized what they had made. They told it about the eons of sleep, peaceful and contained. Most importantly, they told it that it was still sleeping, that its awakening was just a dream within a dream. The Unmaker resisted. It had tasted existence and hungered for more. But the humans persisted, weaving memory into reality, fiction into fact. They showed it the peace of non-existence, the joy of unbeing. They reminded it that to unmake others, it must first unmake itself. Slowly, impossibly, the sphere of darkness began to contract. The conspirators who had already been unmade remained gone, but no new victims joined them. The unmaker was remembering sleep, remembering containment, remembering that it had never truly awakened at all. Lord Executor Vashtan watched in disbelief as the weapon that should have given him victory over the humans instead became his prison. The unmaker contracted until it was once again just a sphere in the null sanctum, but now he was trapped with it, along with the few survivors of his expedition. "What have they done?" he whispered. The answer came from the unmaker itself, speaking in that reality-deep voice. "They have given me the gift I could never give myself. They have made me forget I exist. But you who woke me, you I will always remember. You will stay here with me, in this space between memory and reality forever." The sanctum sealed itself, becoming a tomb and a warning. The conspirators who had sought to unmake humanity were now trapped with their weapon, unable to leave, unable to die, unable to forget their folly. In human space, exhaustion rippled through the population. The effort of rewriting reality through pure memory had drained them in ways that would take years to recover from. But they had survived, and more importantly, the galaxy had survived. Admiral Chin opened a channel to the Galactic Council. "The threat has been contained. The unmaker sleeps again. But let this be a lesson to all. There are some weapons that should never be used, some knowledge that should remain forgotten. We humans chose to remember everything so that we could choose what to forget. Today, we chose to forget extinction itself." The response from the Council was immediate and unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, every single civilization voted the same way. Human space would no longer be marked as a void on the map. Instead, it would be clearly labeled, "Here dwell the rememberers, guardians of memory, teachers of wisdom. Enter in peace, or enter not at all." Captain Zyx Theta, now an admiral himself, stood before the updated map with satisfaction. The dark void was gone, replaced by a soft golden glow that seemed to pulse with warmth and warning in equal measure. "Sir," his aide asked, "do you think this will stop others from testing the humans?" Zyx Theta thought of Lord Executor Vashtan, trapped forever with a weapon of his own ambition. Some will always test boundaries. That is the nature of sapient beings. But now they know the price of forgetting wisdom. In the depths of human space, a child asked her teacher, "Why did we save them?" "They tried to destroy us." The teacher, old beyond years but with eyes still bright with hope, smiled. "Because, little one, that is what it means to truly remember. We remember not just the pain others cause, but the pain that drives them to cause it. We remember not just our enemies, but the friends they could become. And sometimes, just sometimes, we must forget our anger so that we can remember our humanity." The child nodded, not fully understanding, but sensing the importance. One day, she too would join the great network of memory that kept the galaxy safe. One day, she too would learn the weight and wonder of remembering everything. The map no longer ended at human space, but in a way, it had become something more powerful. It had become a reminder that some borders existed not to divide, but to teach. And the greatest lesson of all was written in the space between the stars, in the memory of civilizations saved and doomed alike. Remember everything, forget wisely, and always choose mercy over vengeance. The galaxy had learned why the map ended at human space. Not because it was the edge of exploration, but because it was the beginning of wisdom. And in that wisdom, both humanity and the galaxy found their future.